On Sunday, it became clear. Every new story, every attempt to move on, none measures up to what once existed. It was inevitable to feel it. It wasn't just longing, but the certainty that nothing else compares. God touched something deep. It wasn't by chance, it was a warning, an impossible-to-ignore reminder. One can try to disguise it, filling the void with other things, but the absence remains there, unchanged. The question now is simple. Keep pretending or finally confront the truth that's always been there. The truth is unsettling. It can be buried under excuses, new distractions, or any convenient justification, but it never disappears. On Sunday, that truth came back with force. It wasn't a fleeting thought or a mere daydream. It was a punch in the chest. It was the moment everything fell into place in a cruel and inescapable way. No new story can match what has already been lived. What once seemed forgotten, tucked away in the furthest corner of my mind, became present. The comparisons were inevitable. No voice sounds as familiar. No touch evokes the same recognition. No gaze carries the same meaning. And that's frightening, because it shouldn't be that way, right? Time should soften the absences, making the past just a distant reflection. But that's not what happened. God has peculiar ways of showing what needs to be seen. It's not always with clear signs or direct answers. Sometimes it's just a discomfort that grows, an absence that becomes more and more evident, a silent regret that tightens the chest and makes every attempt to move forward feel forced, artificial. It's no use resisting. You can run away from what you feel, but you can't change what is true. And the truth is this: you won't find what you've lost anywhere else. You can't replace something unique. You can try, insist, seek new distractions, but in the end, everything becomes a reminder of what once was. The doubt that remains. The question now isn't just about remembering. Memories come and go. They've always been there. What changes is the way these memories start to demand a stance, because the time has come to decide what to do with them. Do you keep pretending none of this matters, that there's no need to look back, or do you finally accept that some things were not meant to be forgotten? God touched this wound for a reason. It wasn't to cause pain without purpose. It wasn't to feed unnecessary suffering. It was to provoke a decision. Time may have passed, but not everything that's been lost is erased. Not everything is out of reach. So what comes next? The truth that cannot be ignored. Time has passed, but it hasn't erased anything. On the contrary, it has only made clearer what should never have been left behind. Life has moved on. New stories have been written, but none of them could fill the space that was left behind. And that space is not small. It is deep, present, impossible to ignore. Denying this reality is like pretending that the absence doesn't weigh heavily, that the nights aren't marked by persistent thoughts, that each new attempt doesn't bring hidden between the lines an inevitable comparison. Because the truth is this: no other story had the same intensity, no other gaze carried so much meaning, no other conversation reached so deep. What remains now is the awareness that nothing constructed with such truth can be discarded without consequences. Some things do not cease to exist just because one chooses not to look at them. Some connections remain alive even when everything around insists that it's right to move on without looking back. But how long can this be ignored? How long can one pretend that everything is resolved, that there's nothing more to say? Because reality doesn't change with time. What is true remains, and deep down, it has always been there. The fear of facing what needs to be faced. Fear is binding. It creates barriers, feeds excuses, justifies silence. It tells you it's better to leave things as they are, that touching this now will only bring complications, and that the past should stay where it is. But that's a lie. The past never stays behind. It manifests in small moments, in memories that appear without permission, in dreams that insist on bringing back what was tried to be forgotten. It takes courage to face what has been left pending, to accept that some answers still need to be given, to admit that pride prevented truths from being spoken at the right time, to understand that perhaps there is still something that can be rebuilt. Silence does not erase the truth. Ignoring does not make it disappear. What was real always finds a way to come back. And now, after so much time, that truth is knocking at the door once again. The decision that cannot be delayed. The time for fleeing is over. The moment of pretending that everything is resolved has passed. Now, there are only two options: to continue living superficially, trying to find in other stories what only existed in one, or to face reality and take action. The choice is there, but ignoring that choice is also a decision. So then, until when? The pressure of time and the illusion of waiting. Every second that passes makes this truth heavier. There's no escaping it. Time can be a great ally, but it can also be a cruel enemy. It waits for no one. It drags opportunities away, wears down feelings, and before you know it, what could have been can no longer be. Believing that there will always be a right moment to act is a dangerous illusion, because the right moment never comes alone. It requires a step, an action, a choice. And in this case, what's at stake is not just a fleeting regret. It's the definitive loss of something that could still be saved. Time has already shown that moving forward without confronting this truth hasn't worked. All attempts to fill the void have failed. All the stories that came afterward haven't been able to erase what still beats within the chest. Waiting doesn't solve anything. Silence doesn't heal. Absence cannot replace. Only the decision remains. The cost of inertia. Avoiding this conversation doesn't change what needs to be said. It merely postpones the inevitable. And each day without an answer, without a gesture, without a step towards the truth is another lost day. There's already been enough time to try to erase the memories, to force a new beginning, to pretend that the past doesn't weigh that much. But reality has imposed itself once again, and now there's no ignoring it. Fear may scream that it's too late. Pride may insist it's not worth it. Insecurity may whisper that maybe none of this can be fixed anymore. But all of this is just excuses, justifications to avoid the discomfort of facing what needs to be faced. And the question remains, until when? Until it's too late. Until time takes away the possibility of starting over for good, because at some point this chance will simply cease to exist. The final warning. This is not just another random memory. It's not just a fleeting thought. It's not a meaningless daydream. It's a warning, a final alert, a necessary push before it becomes impossible to turn back. God doesn't bring this feeling to the surface for no reason. He doesn't make memories stronger without purpose. He doesn't allow this absence to hurt so much unless there's something to be done. But the final choice isn't up to him. It doesn't depend on chance. It depends on a decision. And now, what will be done with this? The choice that cannot be avoided. The moment has come. There are no more excuses, no more escapes. Now, there are only two directions. Continue ignoring it, letting time carry this story to a point of no return, or face what has always been there, waiting for action. The silence has gone on for too long. The absence has already shown its weight. God has touched the heart more than once, bringing memories, signs, and the restlessness that won't disappear. This is not coincidence. Perhaps the answer has been clear for a long time, but pride blinded the vision. Perhaps insecurity made it seem impossible. But the truth is that there is space for this conversation to happen. There's a door open, even if small, waiting for someone to have enough courage to walk through it. And if not now, when will it be? The risk of doing nothing. It's comfortable to believe that there's still time, that at any moment it will be possible to change everything, that if it's meant to be, fate will find a way. But this is the lie that leads to loss, because time does not forgive. It does not wait. It does not give a warning when it's about to close a door forever. Days have passed, weeks, perhaps months, or even years. How many chances have already been wasted? How many moments could have been different if an action had been taken earlier? There is no way to go back, but there is still a way to change the now. Doubt, hesitation, fear. None of that erases the truth, and this truth remains firm, intact, demanding a choice. The last step. This story can still be written differently, but what happens now depends on a single step. Staying still means losing. It means carrying this absence for longer. It means letting time erase what could still be saved. So, what will the choice be? The fine line between now and never again. Opportunities have a limit. Nothing stays available forever. Time erodes, circumstances change, and people grow weary of waiting. The window for a decision is still open, but it won't stay that way for much longer. Silence has already wreaked enough havoc. Each day that has passed without action has been another day allowing the distance to grow larger. But what if this is the last chance? What if after this, there's no more possibility of reclaiming what was lost? Because life doesn't give you a heads up when it decides to move on without giving another opportunity. One day, without realizing it, what could have been will no longer be possible. And nothing is more painful than realizing too late that time has won. The pain of indecision. There is a weight in carrying something unresolved, an unease that never completely fades. Some things can be forgotten, replaced, left behind without major scars. But this story wasn't one of them. And if nothing is done now, the consequence will be inevitable. A permanent doubt about what could have happened. Could it have been possible to rebuild? Would a single conversation have changed everything? Would even the smallest action have altered the outcome? The pain of losing something without fighting for it is greater than the fear of facing what needs to be faced. And deep down, that truth is already known. The end or a new beginning. This choice must be made. Now, not tomorrow, not at some future moment that may never arrive. Their chance still exists, but not for much longer. So what will it be? The definitive end or a step toward a fresh start? The threshold of the final decision. Hesitation comes at a cost. Every second without an answer is a step toward irreversible loss. And what hurts more? Facing the truth or living with the eternal uncertainty of what could have been. Because this moment could be the last. The final chance to say what was never said, to acknowledge what was denied, to correct what can still be fixed. But if nothing is done now, soon it will only be a memory of a choice that never happened. God has already given all the signs. He has stirred the heart, brought forth memories, and allowed the absence to weigh heavily until it became impossible to ignore. None of this was by chance. But there is a limit to everything, even to opportunities. What if, after so long waiting, this story finally fades away? The irreversible reality. The truth is relentless. Some chances never return. One day, what is still possible today will become unreachable. Messages will no longer be answered. Glances will no longer have the same luster. Time will have done what it always does. Taken away what was not appreciated at the right moment. There will be no more signs, no more insistent memories, no more half-open doors, just a definitive silence where nothing more can be done. And when that day comes, there will be no turning back, now or never. The choice has never been clearer. There is no room for doubt now, no more excuses that can sustain inertia. The question is simple. Take the necessary step or accept that nothing else can be changed. But let it be clear, once the door closes, there will be nothing more to be done. So what will it be? A new beginning or regret forever? The last moment to choose. This is not just another fleeting reflection. This is the last time the decision is in the hands of those who can still take action. Time doesn't rewind. Opportunities don't wait. And what can still be rebuilt today may tomorrow be nothing more than a distant memory of something that was never completed. There is no more room for doubt. Everything has already been shown, felt, and relived. God has already touched, warned, and made it clear what needs to be done. What is missing now is the courage to take a step, to break the silence, to confront what has been pushed into oblivion for far too long. Because after this, there will remain only one certainty: the regret of what was not said, of what could have been resolved, of what could have been saved. And there is no greater pain than carrying an unfinished story forever. The last call. If this text resonates within you, if these words have brought to light a truth that can no longer be ignored, then don't let it die here. Take action. Do something. Before it's too late. And so this message can reach more people who need to hear it. Subscribe to the channel, give it a like, and comment here. Time doesn't wait. I choose to act. This could be the beginning of something new. But the choice must be made now.